Welcome, everyone, to episode 11 of 121 of 55 and 5. I'm Ian Riccaboni, Cary Silkin. What an extravaganza this is going to be, Cary.
Well, I'm hoping you got a few here that I could dispense a little bit of information and not be in the simpleton category that you had me on some of these, but it is what it is.
It's just a quick recap. This is intended to be a 5-minute history lesson. Cary and I are both very verbose, so we're going to run through a card from the 1955 Parkhurst set, thus 55 in 5. There's 121 cards. We intend to go through them each individually because there's some A-list guys like Vern Gagne, who we've talked about. We know Luthez is in the set. Buddy Rogers, maybe that's behind this card. And we know guys like Steve McGill, who is a second-generation Nebraska wrestler who wrestled for about a year in 1954 and didn't have a decision. He wrestled the all-time limit draws in opening matches in the Nebraska territory. So, with that said, I'm going to take out my phone. I'm going to set the 5 minutes. I don't know if you'll know this one today. This is a coin flip because as I was researching, he was entirely more notable than I would have anticipated, but it seemed like all of that was in England. So that's your hint. Got 5 minutes on the clock. I'm going to show the card to the folks at home, and he's got a nice hat on there. He's dressed in a suit. Cary, I'm going to start the clock. Do you know this man? His name is Allan Garfield.
He was selling aluminum siding in Newark.
It's a Last Stop Penn Station reference. Please go check that out, iTunes.com.
Allan Garfield. Can I examine it a little, please?
Yeah, and you can read the French description on the back if you like.
Well, he's holding, what, a valise of some nature?
Yeah, he's a man. He's from England. I'll give you that hint.
Well...
And I have the safety net here if Cary decides to tap out. And again, this is not to judge Cary or not a test of his knowledge. This is intended for us to learn and for you to learn with us. So,
well, you better teach me.
Yeah, so there's actually a misspelling on the card. It's spelled A-L-L-A-N. It's actually A-L-A-N, Garfield. He wrestled from 47 to 74, 27-year career. He first came to Canada in June of 53. Before that, he wrestled in the UK. Wrestled for Eddie Quinn, great promoter from Montreal, very famous. By that year in September, he was doing Maple Leaf Wrestling. He actually defeats Don Leo Jonathan really quickly in 1953. Becomes a regular partner of George Scott, who, for those who don't know...
And he wrestled under this name.
Allan Garfield. He did have an alias from time to time, but mostly Allan Garfield. And that becomes important because he goes back to England by the end of 1956. It becomes sort of a bigger name there. He comes to the U.S. in 62 for a red-hot WWA in Los Angeles when they have the hot TV program there. And he wrestles Black Bart and Tom Zink, but not the Black Bart and Tom Zinks that we know. So two different folks than the Black Barts and Tom Zinks you'd see in the 80s and 90s. He's partnered with Carl von Schober. He drew a big house against Danny Hodge later. He jumped ship in California from the LA territory to the AWA, the new AWA, which is now running San Francisco. There he faces Mark Lewin. He faces Red Bastien. He goes to England in 1963, becomes a big box office draw.
Well, I'll tell you, I have no. Once again, I don't remember him from the magazines. His name never came. I've never been made aware of him.
In my research, there might be a reason for that. Despite him being as popular as he was, there's almost no surviving footage of him from the United States or from England, and there's very little photography of him. So,
well, thanks.
This is one of the few items that actually still exists of this man, despite being a big time wrestling star.
This is a guy who maybe someone like Les Thatcher, who I've tried to tag some of these historians who are older, a Les Thatcher type,
right?
Who, or even Kevin Sullivan might be aware of him. But when was the last time he wrestled in the States?
That appears to be 1963. By the end of that, he had gone back to England, and his big feud was against Lord Alfred Hayes.
Okay.
And then his biggest gate, by my research, was against Ricky Starr. And you know Ricky Starr.
Yes, Ricky Starr became a WWF star. He did a ballerina type gimmick. But you stumped me, my man.
And what's interesting, I encourage folks that are watching this to go out and check out the posters. There's a great English wrestling forum that I found. I think the site was wrestling.co.uk. They have some of the posters of him headlining, and he's billed as an American crusher.
Interesting.
He's billed as someone that can beat the Americans like Ricky Starr in some of his biggest matches, but almost no footage of this guy. People are still looking for good quality footage of Allan Garfield.
And when did he pass away?
I don't actually have that on file, but Allan Garfield.
Well, someone's gonna chime in on this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I learned something too. I would have thought he was a manager, a very mild-mannered looking, but turns out one of the biggest stars in the 1960s in English wrestling. Who would have known?
Not me.
Well, that's why we're doing this. So I'm going to stop the clock. Wow, 4 minutes, 48 seconds on the great Allan Garfield.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth.
Well, there you have it, folks. This has been episode 11 of 55 at 5. We're going to come back to you tomorrow night, every weeknight at 8 p.m.
Join us tomorrow, where you can see Ian make Cary look dumber than a whole field full of hogs.
For Cary, for our producer AJ, for Bisson Creative. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time on 55 at 5.